The summer before moving out here to LA for rabbinical school, I worked as a cashier at a popular local burger joint in Houston called Beck's Prime. Beck's is an order at the counter type of place, and as the cashier, I had plenty of face time with the customers. I really liked the job. I loved my coworkers. For the most part, I enjoyed working with the customers. For the most part. Because you can always count on at least one, we'll call it unfortunate, event to happen every day. And here's the worst one, and one that has stuck with me over the last several years. It's a lunch rush, and two bigger guys looking like they just came from the gym, walk up to the counter. Without as much as a please or a hello, one of them states his order. Give me the Queen of Heart salad, ahi tuna cooked rare. He'll have the shroom burger, no lettuce, a large fry and 2 waters. Without making eye contact, he places his credit card on the table, on the counter, and sticks his hand out for the buzzer that we use to signal for them to come back and grab the food. Now, I noticed the other guy kind of looking awkwardly at his feet, almost embarrassed by his friend's actions. And, I had dealt with customers like him before. Like I said, we had 1 or so bad interactions per day, and I kind of sensed where he was going. He kind of sees me as more of an animated, fill in the order robot type of person as opposed to a real human being. So after uploading the order into the system, I signaled to my manager to pay attention while I read back the order. Didn't want to make any mistakes for this one. You want a Queen of Heart salad with an ahi tuna cooked rare, and a medium shroom burger with no lettuce, a large fry, and 2 waters. Will that be all? Yeah. So you're good with all the other fix-ins? Yeah. Great. That'll be $41.50, please, or whatever it was. Y'all make everything so expensive here. As though I had anything to do with setting the price. He pays, shakes his head again, and walks to an outside table. About 10 minutes later, the chef finishes the order. We buzz him back to come grab his food. He comes, picks it up, goes back to his table. All right, seems like everything's okay. Only soon afterwards, I see him throw his hands up in the air, hits the table, and starts making his way back to the counter. My coworker and I look at each other in a little bit of fear and anticipation for today's entertainment. He walks up to the counter, and I said no tomatoes. Why are there tomatoes on the burger? You can imagine what the fill in the blank was. My manager sees what's happening, leaves another customer during a lunch rush, leaves another customer to walk and stands in front of us, calmly says, "Sir, please return to your seat. We'll bring you a brand new burger, no tomatoes, but if you raise your voice again, we'll have to ask you to leave and not to come back." He responds accordingly by throwing the tray with the burger on it at us across the counter. Suffice it to say, he was not welcome back into the establishment. In a 2021 poll, about 62% of customer-facing restaurant employees reported a similar situation. The pandemic, of course, has elevated tension between patrons and waitstaff, and many restaurant workers have decided that enough is enough and stopped. They quit. As a result, restaurants are more short-staffed, overworked, overstressed, and a downward cycle continues. My coworkers and I used to joke that if only we can identify this sort of person before they walked in, maybe we could prepare ourselves, maybe we could stop them from ever coming in. This week's Parshat Tazria, details tzara'at, the skin affliction that gets people for, among other things, speaking ill of others. They would grow scaly white spots on their bodies, and if really bad, their clothing and their homes. In addition to the physical malady, you can imagine the stigma attached to getting tzara'at. You get these disgusting splotches, and everyone's afraid to come near you because they know if you do, well, they can't trust you. You were infected for denigrating other people, and they look at you with contempt. Of course, the condition was temporary and lasted only until the individual had, isolated and presumably done a certain amount of tshuva. So while my coworkers and I, of course, were disappointed that we couldn't identify people by tzara'at, we can learn a powerful tool from this system in our efforts to rule out cruelty. Stigma. Stigma, of course, carries its own stigma. Because like with tzara'at, it often comes attached to either disease or some other thing that society decides is not okay. And it's been used to prevent those struggling with their mental health from getting the treatment they need. It's ostracized people who appear in some way unwhole, whatever that means, as though they were less than because of how they were born or something that happened to them in their lives. And this is wrong. And it's something that we need to identify and to prevent. After all, everyone was made B'Tselem Elohim, the image of God. And that image is a little different for everybody, but we are all made in God's image. And cruelly excommunicating people for factors outside their control is not only an affront to innocent human beings, but therefore also an affront to God. When used incorrectly, stigma can cause great damage. But when used properly, when applied not to individuals but to actions, it can curb socially unacceptable and cruel behavior. And it's not like we don't already stigmatize actions. If someone were to brush their teeth or shave in the middle of a nice restaurant, think about that. You'd be shocked. You might look at them funny. That behavior is considered outside the parameters of good society. It's been stigmatized. Yet we say nothing about cruelty or mistreatment of service workers unless it escalates into violence. Let's change that. A few months ago, Rabbi Wolpe from this very bima spoke about confronting Lashon Hara by responding to it with the awkward no. That when someone begins to tell you a piece of juicy gossip, stop them. Say, you're not interested in hearing this. That they're speaking badly of other people doesn't make your relationship any closer. It might be awkward, but it's effective. It stops them in their tracks. It curbs their behavior, and it prevents them from doing it again. They didn't get the response they wanted the first time. They're not going to get it the second time. And we can use the same technique here. If you're at a restaurant and you see somebody you care about mistreating the waitstaff, intervene. Give them a side eye. As a friend or loved one, you won't accept that behavior. And think about how many people you interact with on a daily basis. How do you treat the religious school teacher who trying to educate your kid alongside another 17 who maybe shows up 2 minutes late to pick up? Or the electric company employee on the phone balancing another 6,000 or so calls who tells you they can't issue that refund? The waitstaff trying to smile through a tail end of a double shift who tells you that the kitchen forgot to take off the tomatoes. Do you treat them with dignity or with contempt and demands? While Lashon Hara is linked with punching up, an attempt to climb society's ladder, this form of verbal abuse is keeping people down. As though you are somehow better than them, you need to keep them down in their place, as though we weren't just created equally. And when we think about it, let's take a step back. I hope everybody would say that mistreating service workers is wrong. It seems obvious. And yet many of us do it anyway. Because we've been infected with a disease, with a tzara'at, with no physical marker. The concept of mistreatment is broad enough that we don't always remember that it includes not making eye contact, making demands without saying please and thank you, responding to mistakes in ways that dishonor the other person's God-given dignity? What's gotten into you? Come on, don't speak to him like that. Look at her in the eyes. If we can use the power of stigma in a positive way on our friends, our loved ones, the strangers we meet in a restaurant, we will be making the world a better and socially healthier place. Shabbat Shalom.